I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you would, let's stand and give a pledge of allegiance, followed by an invocation from Ted Martin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for this time. And most importantly, Father, we thank you for the grace and mercy that you give us on a daily basis. Father, we just ask that you be with us during this time and guide us and direct us as we make decisions for this community. And first and foremost, Father, we ask that you help us to remain centered in your will as we move forward. We love you and we praise you, for it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Fenton. Denham.
Here.
Cooper.
Here.
Milton.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Howden.
Here.
LeBlanc.
Here.
Your Honor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll start off the meeting with proclamation as Mel Tillis State Ciders Day in Branson, Missouri. Connie Tillis, Madison Howden, and Philip Hollingsworth. Are you here?
Couldn't make it tonight, but
Oh, this is a proclamation honoring Mel Tillis and his State Cider Band for the preservation and traditional country music and the establishment of the template that would become the Branson Family Show, and proclaiming August 8th, 2022 as Mel Tillis State Ciders Day in Branson. Whereas it is recognized that Mel Tillis became a country music Hall of Famer for his contributions to the genre of singer, songwriter, and iconic American comedians. He had around 36 top 10 hits on the country chart, was named CMA Entertainer of the Year in 1976, and as a crowning achievement, received the National Medal of the Arts from the President of the United States for his contributions to country music. Whereas Mel became a household name for his film and television appearances, along with his music, he always showed his family man side to the nation. Mel's daughter Pam won a CMA Female Vocalist of the Year in 1994 and made her own mark in country music, also performing in Branson for several years. His only son, Mel Tillis Jr., became an accomplished songwriter himself and would go on to earn a Grammy nomination for the country hit When I Think About Angels. Therefore, when Mel came to Branson, he featured his entire family in his show. This started a trend in the community, which would go on and define what is meant to perform in the Ozarks. And whereas the Tillis family legacy continues in Branson, being key catalyst to the preservation of the music history and continuation of this cornerstone industry. Now, therefore, I, Larry D. Milton, Mayor of the City of Branson, Missouri, hereby proclaim that on this day of August 8th, 2022, we celebrate the legacy of Mel Tillis and one of the last great bands in country music, the State Ciders.
You know, it's kind of become a little mantra that we've been saying, but I always think Branson anytime that we get something like this for Granddaddy. Because if it hadn't been for Branson, we wouldn't have got all those years to spend right alongside him. He would have been on the road otherwise, and Branson was such a legacy thing. Got to bring his entire family. As I was sitting here reading that, I'm thinking how Clay puts his kids in the show, and it's just a tradition that we've started and makes Branson such a special place that it is. So we've been going through, we sent our VHS tapes out, and we've gotten some of the DVDs back of some of those old videos. So it's kind of been memory lane these past couple weeks. But we appreciate the mayor for this honor and all you're doing to honor the entertainers in Branson. So thank you guys.
Marshall.
Yes, sir.
I'd also like to say thank you. Thank you very much for making this happen.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it from the bottom of our hearts.
Thank you.
Melvin would have been 90 today.
On his birthday, the day.
I mean, on that day, August 8th.
August 8th.
Yeah, that's cool. That'd been, yeah, that's awesome.
Wow.
All right. You guys can take off. Love you, Mom.
Thank you for coming in. You bet. Now we have our recognition of the You've Been Caught Citizen Award. Is Katie McVicker in the audience? Come on down. On behalf of the Mayor, Board of Aldermen, City Administrator, and City staff, it is my honor to announce Katie McVicker as the City of Branson's You've Been Caught Doing Something Good Award winner. This award is to positively recognize Branson citizens and community members whose actions exemplify the City of Branson values and who make our community a great place to live, work, and play. Katie is receiving this award because of her willingness to get involved with the community initiative and her dedication to that initiative. She took it upon herself to find a meeting for the Ozark Mountain Christmas Committee and has thrown herself into the work. Not only has she volunteered to do some major footwork and lend her expertise to this committee, but she has also come up with some great ideas that have made a huge impact in furthering our community's goals. Katie is a great example of one citizen who took the initiative to get involved, and in doing so is making a positive impact on our community. Congratulations.
Stay up here with me, Sue. Yeah, I'm going to say something. I'm a former school teacher. We've always got something to say. I love this community. I love the people in this community. I chose to move here 5 years ago from a state which shall be unnamed. And I was so excited when I saw the invitation on the Facebook page that anybody could come to the Ozark Mountain Christmas Committee. And so I thought, that sounds like a way to get involved in Branson and contribute, to what you guys are doing here. It's, this is an amazing place to live, and I just really love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Really quickly, at every one of these Ozark Mountain Christmas meetings, we always start off and we go around the room and we introduce ourselves and say, Marshall with the City of Branson, or, Sue Brom with Create, the whole thing, go down the list. And then we always look at Katie and say, and where are you from again? Because that's the whole thing about this. She's just a citizen that decided to come, and she's one of the only ones that really took us up on that. And that's why we're always so energized about Katie coming. And after the first couple times, I said, please come back. So, yeah, she's great. Good job, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Katie, you're a great example of what makes our community great is citizens like you volunteering your time and expertise. So thank you very much. Before we move on to public comment, We lost an honorable member of our community on Sunday. Happens to be Alderman Fenton's dad. He passed away unexpectedly on Sunday. He was the vice president, CFO of Cox. I seldom get onto Facebook, but I was compelled to read all of the accolades that people wrote about David Strong. And just reading what the multiple posts were really described a stand-up guy. We're going to miss somebody of his character in our community. So if you would, I'm asking you just to take a moment of silence and let's not only think about David, but what this is all about, right? Our days are going to come. David's day came, and there's just a lot of solace in that. So let's take just a minute, please. Thank you very much. This is the public comment section of the Board of Aldermen meeting. At this time, the board will hear citizens who have signed up in the order they were listed. Thank you, Katie. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers this evening?
Yes, Your Honor. Our first speaker is Gary Groman. He's speaking on That's What I Am Here For, really, 350 South Wildwood.
Good evening. On July 21st, I sent an email request to Melody Pettit, your communications manager, with a request to interview the city's HR director, Jan Fisher, regarding an article I am writing on the, quote, timeline and selection process for the city administrator as it has transpired thus far, end quote. I CC'd the mayor and you, my elected officials, for your informational purposes. Later that day, I received an email reply from Pettit. Among other things, in that reply, she said that she had forwarded my media request to the proper channels and, quote, would let you know when, if I hear back to facilitate an interview, end quote. On July 22nd, I sent Pettit an email asking, quote, does the if mean that if there is a possibility of no interview, even by noon on Tuesday, July 26th? To date, I have not received the kindness of a reply to that question or email. And I apologize. I normally have time to go over this stuff, but my computer screwed up, and so it is as it is. In her July 21st email, Pettit said, in the future, I am not sure it is necessary to CC the mayor and all the aldermen for your media requests, unless you would like to also reach out to them directly for comment. If all our media outlets CC the mayor and the aldermen for every single media request, they would get slammed with many emails that could all easily be facilitated by the communications department. That is why I am here. In the July 21st email, I CC'd my elected officials for informational purposes. As is the case with any of the people they serve who email them, if they don't want to read it, all they have to do is click a button. If it were a situation where an email concern went beyond the purely informational, as is in the case of this email, I would have sent it to them. I believe that the mayor and majority of the board members would appreciate their constituents keeping them abreast of their interactions with the city. I asked her, am I wrong? Do they want these types of communications channeled and filtered through you? As a matter of interest, on average, how many media requests do they get a week? To date, I have not received either the answers to my questions or reply to that email. In my July 22nd email, I pointed out my lack of faith in a rationale that I shouldn't CC you and burden you because it, quote, could all easily be facilitated by the communications department. That is why I'm here. I ask, quote, if that is the case, why the if regarding even getting an interview? Why the suggestion that I feel free to check back in if you don't hear from me and your deadline is approaching? I ask, isn't that part of your job, reviewing, managing, and fulfilling media requests in an efficient manner? Today, I have not received an answer to any of these questions or my email. As I stand here now, although Jan Fisher called me yesterday and we had our interview, I've received no communications from your communications manager regarding the interview or responding to my questions in the July 22nd email. Ironically, however, I have been advised that she did send an email about me and this situation to the owner and editor of the Branson Globe on July 22nd. Mayor, I would ask your permission to ask the acting city administrator if she authorized such a communication. Can I ask? I got to get permission from you before I can ask.
You okay with that?
I
Yeah.
don't, and then I don't usually authorize those
Okay.
communications, so
Okay. I would also ask you if this is the type of response to requests from a resident of Branson on the part of a senior member of senior city staff that is acceptable. Is it? That's all. Any questions?
Anything for Gary?
Okay.
Gary, thank you very much. Before our next speaker, let me just announce, I was advised our timer clock, we had an exchange of microphones working. We had to give up the clock.
We have a timer clock. I'm keeping track for you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And oh, by the way, we really want to thank Chad for getting, these work great. Thank you. Madam Clerk, another speaker?
Your Honor, Shannon Whitworth, speaking on the Penley Branson Road, 301 South, 301 Scott Boulevard, A301 Branson, Missouri.
After writing notes and speeches and everything else, I figured I'd at least hit the highlights and then I'll just talk. How about that? Sound good? Okay. I've been a property manager in the city of Branson for 16 years. I've had the pleasure of housing many, many residents over those last 16 years, and I, as of today, have a good majority of them still on my property. So I'm really excited that I've been able to do that. And just recently, I was afforded the ability to expand that opportunity to provide good workforce housing that's affordable but yet luxurious. And so I accepted that offer, and upon the early start of it, it got off to a rocky start, but I'm happy to say that we are now open. We've converted the old Angel Inn, and it used to be also called Howard Johnson's, if anyone's familiar on the Strip. We've converted it into studio and one-bedroom apartments that are luxurious. We have stoves and refrigerators. It's a great alternative for people who've always been accustomed to living in a weekly hotel, not being able to save the amount of money that it takes to get into an apartment complex. So we've made it really affordable and really easy for people to do that. My favorite part about the project is that among our amenities, which will include fitness center, pool, of course, we're still under construction, but we're building as we go. We will provide a good community center. We aim to be a tight-knit community that helps each other. So I've also been blessed with the opportunity to join forces with many of the nonprofit organizations, and they've partnered along with me to basically just be a security blanket and a help for anyone in our community, which is really nice. We have veterans, we have retired people, we have people that are starting their lives over. Within the community center, we have Unite Us and Ozark Mountain Country Cares, as well as Ozark Wellness Network. And through these networks, we're able to reach people within the community and meet their needs. So if they're needing food, housing, babysitting, anything like that. Boys and Girls of the Ozarks has offered me full sponsorship for any school-age child living there so that their parents could work. They'll come and pick them up and take them to Boys and Girls Club after school. Through Cox, we've been offered smoking cessation classes, NA and AA classes, Bible study, any opportunity we need to be able to draw the community together and just stay close-knit. I think some of my favorite memories of Branson Park is that I just feel like we are a complete community. We lean on each other, we reach out to each other, everyone watches each other's kids, and we get to be a part of the National Night Out every single year. So I'm just excited to be able to share this housing with everybody, because I know that even if you are housed, everyone knows somebody that might need something. And believe it or not, our first 10 residents came from out of state. They were looking for work in Branson, and we all know that in order to work in Branson, live comfortably in Branson, and especially if you don't have transportation, you need to be able to have a place to live that's affordable. So that's what we provide. That's all.
Before you sit down, when I was first introduced to the property that you're managing, what I was most impressed with is it's, in addition to being a physical structure, which is important for our workforce housing, was all the different services that your property is providing, whether it's drugs, mental abuse, home care. It offered so many services and benefits to those that are, I think, really are going to benefit from the services you provide. Chief, you're familiar with all the things Shannon's doing, yeah. Go ahead, Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to say thank you to Shannon and her husband. Branson Place is in Ward 3, which is my ward. When they offer so much, and I've gone to one of your community gatherings, and everyone is involved. There's stuff for the kids to do. There's so many volunteers, and I know it's a lot of work to put those get-togethers together, but I know you guys do it from the very pit of your heart. And I also went door knocking when I was running for this seat, and just to hear the wonderful things that the tenants had to say about you guys was just really, it meant a lot, and it shows what you do for this community. Thank you so much for what you're continuing to do, too, as you spread out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shannon, you have extra vacancies now. Would you like to share either a phone number or an email or something for people to contact you?
Sure. I brought some business cards, so if anyone wanted to take them, that's great. Our website is www.thepenleigh.com, and that's spelled PENLEIGH.com. Being the regional overseer of everything, I've got great staff on hand. I've got a property manager, a leasing agent, and a great maintenance guy that are all there ready and willing to help. And then we have the neighborhood prayers down the way, and so whenever they see something arise, they're the first ones to come over and just pray for people, no matter what their situation. It's great. I love it.
And so Shannon stands on her own merit, but in addition to that, your husband is a retired
Branson firefighter after 14
Retired
years.
Branson firefighter. Ha. Yep.
You know, I think what Shannon's pulled off is just goes to the grit and the compassion that our community has. It's like, you know, she mentioned that it started out a little roughy, but it's like that never say I'm done, never say die attitude, and just that push through, and just to speak to her character. When my kids went into the Branson School District and started playing sports, her kids are playing sports, and it was always good to just, you know, our community, I always say it's so special, but the level of commitment that parents have to their kids when they're athletes and academic and all those things. And it was just great. Every time I turned the corner, it's like Shannon was there. And just the fact that she's really solidified her space in this community just speaks volumes of the human being that she is. And that's what our community is about.
Very nice.
It's not really me.
A team.
It's God.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get to play in it, though.
And she says that, and I know that's true because every morning, as soon as I give myself 45 minutes before I look at my social media, and you're usually the first one to pop up on my social media with some very inspirational things, so thank you.
Mr. Mayor? Just very quickly. So one of the last night shift places I worked was at Angel Inn. When that was at, and it's such a big place. Excuse me. That we didn't even have one of the 3 buildings open. Can you share with us how many units it's going to be total one more time? Because it's going to be a significant chunk of our needs met by this place because it's so many units.
Yeah, the first building has 109 units in it, and I'm happy to say after a lot of hard work for the last week and a half, we've rented 84 of those units. So we've been working nonstop, but there's a lot of people still coming in. Our second building will have 109, and our last building will have 111. So we'll have 334, and then we'll be expanding into the Hall of Fame. So we're going to convert the Hall of Fame as well. We're going to offer corporate units there, more 1-bedrooms, just try to make it as spacious as we can. And then, of course, we're going to gate everything so that it stays a nice, tight-knit community. But even more importantly, I want everybody to know you're all welcome. We want to come together, and I want you to be able to bring your parents there and stay there and know that they're living in a good, comfortable place.
Shannon, thank you so much for sharing with us.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Madam Clerk?
Our next speaker is Ginger Whitty. She's speaking as a candidate for Missouri House 156. She wanted to introduce herself. Her address is 402 Roy Avenue, Branson, Missouri.
Yeah, I will keep it short, but I just wanted you to know that I am running for Missouri House, District 156. Of course, that includes Branson, Hollister, Rockaway Beach, Merriam Woods, and Walnut Shade. I'm a retired school teacher, so shout out for that. I think Katie's already left, but anyway. And I was concerned, the incumbent has been named a school choice champion, and I'm more of a public school champion. Also, there were over 120 K-12 education bills that were pre-filed this year, and most of them were not supportive of public education. So I feel that we certainly need a voice in the Missouri House, and I would like to be that voice. I am actually I'm a Democrat, but I'm not one of those Democrats. I'm very moderate, and I really think that it's important right now. I think we are all getting tired of politics as usual with all the name calling and all of that. And I really think we need to start coming together. We can find common ground. I'm a native of Taney County. I grew up in Forsyth, so I'm pretty good at, this has always been an 80%, Republican community. So, and so I can work across the aisle. I think we need common sense there and just solving problems instead of fighting about it. So anyway, I'd like for you to consider voting for me. I do have an opponent. If you are feeling so inclined and would like to take a Democrat ballot next Tuesday, that'd be fabulous. If not, then hopefully I'll be on the November ballot, and I would appreciate your consideration. I do have cards, if anyone would like one, that has a QR code on the back with my website, and then the other one is registering to vote. So does anyone want a card? Anyone here?
She can leave them. Oh. Give them to you, Lisa.
I'll take them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ginger. Next speaker.
Your Honor, the next speaker is Cherry Webster, speaking on transparency and accountability, 118 Country Bluff Drive.
Good evening. I'm here to present to those of you on the dais that ran on a platform of transparency and accountability, an opportunity to demonstrate just that. At the last Alderman hearing on July 12th, there were resolutions presented for ARPA funding through the DNR for 15 projects in the Utilities and Public Works departments. Although the ARPA application process required an approved resolution, this public hearing at the applications level adds another layer of accountability, and that's a good thing. In like fashion, when it comes time in September to submit applications for city sewer projects to the Taney County Sewer District, a public hearing on those applications would also add another layer of accountability. Although a resolution is not required, is not a requirement for the sewer district grant monies, the public oversight process would provide additional transparency where the Branson residents can see the magnitude of projects that the city needs to address and how it proposes to utilize available funding resources. Otherwise, the residents won't know anything about the projects unless and until an award is made and a subsequent contract is required to be executed by the mayor. As an example, in September 2020, the contentious 40-unit low-income housing project proposed at 3855 Fall Creek Road, owned by Dan Ruda and Kendall Combs and Mark Ruda and Mike Combs, had no transparency when the city leadership applied for an $85,000 grant for that private developer. Although the city had approved a resolution for infrastructure cost sharing at the June 23, 2020 Alderman hearing, no mention of any decisions or results requested from that resolution were ever made public. In fact, it wasn't until the grant was awarded and the city needed to approve the contract with the sewer district that the public knew anything about the application. At the time of that contract request, the wording of the agenda item was quite generic. Quote, intergovernmental agreement between Taney County and the city of Branson to provide funding toward the cost of the city's planned 2021 sewer system improvements. It was so generic that the item was easily overlooked. It was not apparent it even applied to the Country Bluff subdivision or the Ruda Combs project. When it came up for the second reading, a closer examination of the staff report revealed that the agenda item was for only one project and it was connected to the Country Bluff subdivision. Further, the staff report was so opaque that it looked like the city was actually trying to hide the fact that the award was for the Rudas and the Combs private development. The report didn't even reference the approved infrastructure cost-sharing resolution, which was the whole impetus behind the sewer district application. The wording referenced, quote, an affordable housing development adjacent to the Country Bluff subdivision, end quote, instead of the more relevant description of the actual project name, specific address, and the name of the developer, Fountains on Fall Creek. Instead of identifying the specific project at hand, the report stated that, quote, the improvements will provide sewer access to the next upstream property directly to the west of Country Bluff, end quote. The bottom line is that there is a need for more transparency when it comes to using tax dollars and outside funding resources, especially on behalf of private developers. A public vote also holds each alderman accountable for their actions with respect to funding private development. I would imagine that most, if not all, of the city's sewer projects would exceed the dollar threshold for requiring alderman approval. So in anticipation of this September deadline and Director Powell's numerous projects, I would propose that the city present those projects and their priority rank for alderman approval and public transparency before the applications are submitted instead of after an award and at the contract approval step. Mr. Mayor and Alderman, does that sound like an option you might want the city leadership to consider implementing?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I think you raised some good points. Lisa and Jim, would you address, I mean, not now, but I'd like to address some of that. I know one of your great points is when there's a public notice put out of a topic on an agenda, it could be much more clear.
Yes.
Right, of what the topic is. Thank you for bringing that up. We're going to address that.
Okay.
As far as the transparency, I believe you know the heart of this board, and
Yes.
there are no secrets. We want everything put out. So the only caution I would have is I know there were 15 different grants applied for. At this stage, we don't know if we're going to get one approval, right, or 10 approvals. So I think it was a matter of these are available, let's go apply for everything, and then see what we get back. And I think that would be the time, if you don't mind, to prioritize those projects. Because what I'm told is we don't know until they respond back. So based on that, are you requesting that even at the initial process of submitting grants, because I think we submit an awful lot of grants and we just don't get a bunch approved, that the board prioritize at that early stage?
Well, I would think there probably is some sort of prioritization already done, but the point I was trying to make was the ARPA funding required a resolution and required that require the application to come publicly, whereas the Taney County Sewer District does not.
Got it.
And so
So we did have the
you
resolution
did a
for the ARPA.
great job last time by
on
presenting
ARPA.
what the 15 were.
Yes.
But Director Powell, I know, has quite a few sewer projects, and I'll skip that part. He has several projects, and I think it would be helpful to know what his priorities are, which ones are more important. I mean, when you just look from the water side, is there a month that goes by that a water line isn't breaking somewhere?
Nope.
And so from the sewer side, you have a lot of other projects, and I would think that you've got some priorities. And of course, from my comments that you've heard the last 12 months, I'm not a real fan of using sewer district funding to support private development projects. Last year, well, in 2020, when the one for Fountains on Fall Creek was submitted, there were 3 others. There was one for the international grocer Aldi, for the national restaurant Panera. I forget what the 4th one was. And then a local developer that was going to put in 40 units, which I dare say he probably never wanted to put those 40 units in. He just wanted the water and sewer for the rest of his 50-acre parcel so that he wouldn't have to pay for it. And those are the kinds of considerations that I think should be brought forward during the application process and not done, I don't want to necessarily say, well, we'll say behind the scenes.
Jerry, this is a new board. You know our
Yes.
heart. I will tell you, and I'm confident the vast majority of this board will tell you that will happen
Thank you.
in the future. You bet. Thank you. Madam Clerk, any more?
Our next speaker is Richie Zates, speaking on general topics, 12692 Byway 14 West.
Hi there. We've come an awful long way from being subjected to lockdowns and having our economy, in error, and many of the incidents that have happened here in our beautiful town, which I love and adore, and I thank God for every member of the board and our mayor, and I'm concerned about the future of our children, and there was a statement issued about inoculating, vaccinating pregnant women, which our stats indicate there's a 90% chance of miscarriage in that event. And so these are important issues. I want to provide an information location so that if someone is going to make a decision that's so radical, of putting elements in a little baby or a child, 6-month, that they would have an opportunity to see that there are alternatives to this, and remembering that this is experimental. And I think it's very, very important for the future. Now, that's item 1. I will be coming back and giving you that website and where people can get that information. And no, I'm not running for a political office. The other issue is there's somebody that I just want to find out if you've honored Yakov Smirnoff yet. Because
Who?
the guy who puts all the anti-mask vax stuff, who I went backstage and talked to him, and he was getting a lot of flack from the owner, so you have to take a neutral position on this. But remember, he escaped from communism, and I think our country is right on the edge of some issues. We're seeing people come across the border with no restrictions. We're seeing all kinds of things go on. These are real issues, and I think they need to be addressed as far as seeing what the future is going to be, because we plant the seeds now and then it grows. And we want to protect our children, we want to protect our community. And I would like to request that he gets it. When I asked him about it, you know what he said? No, I don't need anything like that. I mean, I thought that was just really another compliment for someone who escaped communism to come to America and honors our country more than anybody else in the community. He's got his Statue of Liberty everywhere. So I would recommend this. I don't know who proposes that, if I have to make an initiative for it.
Let me just clarify for you. Number one, Yakov and I are fairly close. We just admire him to no end.
Yes.
But Marshall Howden has been appointed as the
Okay.
ambassador.
All right.
And so Marshall is the one that is the director of.
Yes.
Hey, Richie, so we've done about 6 of these. What I wanted to do is I wanted to go back since 1990 and see if they'd been done in the past, right? So I pulled every single mayoral proclamation and went through them. And we don't want to double up. That's why when Mickey Gilley passed away, we didn't do that, because December 2nd is already Mickey Gilley Day in Branson. So I'm happy to report December 3rd is Yakov Smirnoff Day in Branson, named by a previous board who knows how long ago. So help us celebrate that on December 3rd.
All
'Cause
right.
he's
I
got his.
didn't know. I just wanted to make sure. That's all. And I applaud him and I applaud you. I think we should applaud our board.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, any more speakers?
That's all of our speakers, Your Honor.
Thank you. So we will move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that any member in the audience would like to see taken down for further discussion? Jerry, you know the drill.
Good evening again. My name is Cherry Webster. I live at 118 Country Bluff Drive. Thank you for pulling down this agenda item. Director Chad, Mr. Chad, are you able to pull up the last staff report, Exhibit 1, disbursements dated July 15th, 2022?
Hold on a sec, Jerry.
Okay, we can pull it down and make it the next item on the regular agenda for discussion, but right now, we're just on the consent agenda for approval.
That's right. She's right. That's the process.
She's almost always right. Thank you. We'll pull down number 2. Anybody else in the audience have any consent agenda items they'd like pulled down for further discussion? Any members of the board have items they'd like pulled down from consent? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you read the consent agenda?
Your Honor, the consent agenda is as follows. Approval of the Board of Aldermen minutes for the July 12th, 2022 study session, July 12th, 2022 regular meeting, and July 19th, 2022 special meeting. Final reading of Bill Number 6181, an ordinance amending Section 91-11 of the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to tree preservation. Final reading of Bill Number 6182, an ordinance of the City of Branson, Missouri, reaffirming the gross receipts tax to be imposed upon electric corporations conducting business within the city and matters related thereto. Your Honor, that concludes reading of the consent agenda. The floor is open for a motion approving all items on the consent agenda as amended.
So we have a motion and a second. Let's vote on the approval of the consent agenda.
Oh, sorry, Alderman. Me.
Can she give a
Is that a vote? Yes.
oral vote?
Yes.
Ruth, you can give an oral vote. Oh, you're up there now. You give an oral vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That motion carried 5-0.
So moving on to the agenda, we will start with item 2 from consent, which was the acknowledgement of disbursements. Correct?
Correct. Your Honor, this item that came down from the consent agenda is the acknowledgement disbursements for the June 23rd, 2022 through July 15th, 2022 disbursements. And just as a notation, the Finance Committee had asked that this disbursements be moved up under the consent agenda, so this is new this meeting.
That is true.
Yes, so this was moved up, this
And
is
that
our,
was- Yeah, that was a recommendation from Budget and Finance.
so,
So this is what we did, we didn't tell anybody, is that occasionally on our Board of Aldermen meetings, we have the disbursements approved. And through discussion, it was recognized that there are literally pages and pages of financial documents. And so the board is acknowledging receipt of those, not approving anything. And so through that discussion, it was determined that we could put that under consent agenda items versus having it on the agenda to approve it. Absolutely.
so Your Honor, we have this on the floor, and if I could have a motion, we open that up, we'll get it on the floor for a motion for approving, to approve the disbursements. This motion, a second, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve it. Now, are there discussions from anybody in the audience, Jerry?
Thank you. Sorry about jumping the gun. I thought you were, inviting me down here. Okay, so, Mr. Chad, are you able to pull up that one report?
Which report specifically are you requesting again?
The staff report, Exhibit 1, disbursements. It's dated July 15th. It's the last one in the list of exhibits. And the subject of my questions is on page 4. So let me start with this. A year ago, I just happened to stumble across a list of accounts payable checks having a minimum dollar amount of $15,000, which is the dollar threshold requiring Board of Aldermen approval. All the line items looked normal except for one that was over $40,000. At that time, I just tucked it away in the back of my head to think about it later. Then in January this year, I stumbled upon a disbursements report that had the same line item, and again, it was for over $40,000. I didn't know if this was something that was paid out annually or quarterly, but then I came across it again in March and in June, and last week I noticed it's on tonight's agenda. So now it's looking like it occurs monthly, and I'm really curious as to what the service is for this $40,000 a month disbursement.
Is that the one you're referring to?
That's the one.
Jerry?
Thank you for pulling that up. So at the top of page 4, there are 2 line items that are under the vendor name HCW Private Development, LLC. The first entry is labeled Fountain Contribution for an amount of $31,217. The second entry is for $12,297 labeled Maintenance Contribution. The total is $41,515 for the combined line items. The 5 months that I've happened to see this disbursement to HCW the last year were all for over $40,000 each month, and the wording contribution was what caught my attention. The Missouri Secretary of State Business Registration lists the registered agent of this vendor name as Rick Huffman, who we know as the CEO of HCW, the developer of the Branson Landing. I was hoping to get some insight into what these monthly payments actually cover. I ask for this insight because over the last 12 months at these alderman hearings, there's been a documenting of how county officials and prior city elected officials and city leadership made contributions in various ways on behalf of another private developer, Dan Ruda and Kendall Combs, Mark Ruda and Mike Combs, with respect to their fountains on Fall Creek project at 3855 Fall Creek Road. Yes, municipalities do utilize economic development programs. From time to time, we hear of TIFs and SIDs. We just heard briefly about a TDD. I don't know what it was. You talked a lot about it, but I don't know what it is and what you get out of it. We see sewer district grants for developers, such as the $85,000 grant for the Rutas and the Combs. We've even seen building permit fees waived. In fact, $38,000 for one and only one select developer over the last 3 years, the Combs and the Rutas. How many mechanisms does the city employ to financially entice developers to bring their product to Branson? Surely, this city has grown to the status where it's advantageous for developers to bring their product to this town at a profit and without the city giving away the store. Believe it or not, in other jurisdictions, it's the developers that give up proffers and concessions, not the municipality. So here are my specific questions for these recurring contributions. Would you define what a contribution is? How does this HCW contribution relate, or does this HCW contribution relate somehow to a TIF or a SID or a development agreement or some specific contract? Are these two recurring contributions for the Branson Landing? Is the $31,000 disbursement for the fountain itself at the landing? If it is, at the rate of $31,000 a month, it looks like a new fountain could be built every year. What does the city get in return for this $500,000 a year contribution? What maintenance is provided for or reimbursed by the city for the $12,000 a month? When did these two contributions begin? The landing was in full operation when we moved here 13 years ago in 2009. If how many months or years has the city been contributing $40,000 a month? How many more months or years are these contributions scheduled to continue? What will be the total dollar amount and the total number of years? What will be the expected return on this total dollar amount contributed, and how is it measured? Mr. Mayor, whatever insight you and this body can provide to enlighten us would be appreciated.
Jerry, I believe every question you ask, is included in, there is I believe it's called a development agreement. Instead of me rambling and telling you what I think.
Well, I do have some knowledge on this. I can't answer all of her questions at this moment, but I'd be happy to walk through what I do know at this moment on it, and then I can try to find the answer to some of those others if the board directs me to do so.
That'd be great.
I do know we do have the information to answer those questions. It's just a question of looking back at the documents. Right. So the two line items we see there, they are called contributions, but they are not contributions in the same sense that someone gives money to a charity or gives money to a religious organization. They are a portion of the cost of operation of the fountains and a portion of the cost of maintenance for specific areas of the landing. They are not something that the city in recent years chose to pay. They are part of the original lease agreements between the city and the entities that developed the Branson Landing. Now, I am not saying this is right or wrong. I'm saying what the theory of the document says is. The document treats the fountains, part of the, for lack of a better term, street areas within the landings between the stores as a mixed public-private space, almost as though they were a public park. I know they're not entirely treated like a public park, but explaining what the document says. Based on that, the city pays a certain amount that fluctuates based on costs that the city gets invoiced on a monthly basis from HCW for, quote, maintenance, which would include cleaning, street repair, the plants and things up and down the center of the landing, certain costs related to the parking garages, and the fountains. As for why the fountains are so darn high, I could get in more to the specifics and look at those invoices. It has been a number of years since I looked at that. And your question is not an unusual one. That has come up since I've been representing the city. I'd say it's come up since 2012. It has gone on almost immediately after the landing opened. There were questions about these and why we pay these, and this question has come up periodically. But our main cost on those fountains is the darn fire that shoots out of them. We are paying a percentage of the gas costs for those flames and that fire and that lighting. And when you look at the amount of BTUs they pump through those things, it is horrifyingly expensive. So those are all within the master lease for the HCW Branson Landing document. That lease is pretty extensive. It's been a few years since I've read it. I will go back and look at it again to give you more specifics on that. But they are things the city is obligated to pay because of that. And as for your question as to how long we have to pay it, unfortunately, it exists as long as the lease does. And I believe we're on we have at least 30 years to go.
Oh.
We may have more.
Yeah, and so, thank you for that, Jim. When that was explained to me, and Jim's correct, this has come up a few times. Understand when you see the word contribution, what was explained to me was the total cost was X, and in their development agreement, the city agreed to contribute X number of dollars to these expenses. So they're contributing to the expenses is why it says contribution. Don't you smirk at me, young lady.
Well, I did a rough calculation just on the 13 years that I've been here, and that's like $6.2 million. So I'm not quite sure what you're getting out of it. I would think that HCW is getting a lot out of it. Isn't that the landing that probably the #1 retail area? It's frequented not just for retail, but restaurants. You're probably getting some sort of revenue from taxes because it's an attraction. No,
just to make it worse and for you to throw up. May need to get you a chair for this one. That is, the Branson Landing is in an area called a super TIF. You've heard us talk about TIFs, right? TIFs, 50% goes to the municipality, 50% goes to the developer to offset cost. During this process, it was voted on and agreed to that for a super TIF, which means 100% of all the tax generated goes to developer.
Well, the bondholders.
The bondholder,
who finance
to help pay for the debt. That's right.
There's $100 million in bonds on that
But
project,
the city doesn't receive any tax.
depending on how much we've paid down.
Yeah. So the city receives no money on when we look at our tax revenue, those tax dollars that are generated goes to reduce the debt.
So the $500,000 a year contribution is in perpetuity, as long as the landing is still there.
Yes. Yes.
And if you hit the $100 million mark, it still keeps going?
No.
No, yeah.
That's the one thing Lisa and I were going to throw in. We do get to roll the TIF off at some point. Neither Lisa nor I can remember what that date is, but it gets to roll off sooner than the lease.
Not during my term as mayor.
Aw.
Oh.
Wow.
No, not that soon. I mean, I'm thinking it is.
We're thinking it's 23 years, but this is us.
I will not be the mayor in 23 years. Is that fair?
Well,
That's fair.
so when
Marshall's young enough to be the mayor in 23 years.
No, we think it was 23 years worth of TIF.
Oh, total?
Yeah, so the
Landing's been there about 12 years.
Yes, so the TIF expires in 23. A TIF expires in 23 years. So
And we could calculate this
So-
to let
Yeah.
you know how long we have left
So when
and
it's-
how much is owed on the bonds.
So you brought up some very good points. The fact that you stumbled across this, and I use that term loosely, this board, this mayor truly appreciates you raising these questions. Truly appreciates it. We have absolutely nothing to hide, and when there's very valid questions like you just rose, I'll assure you, Jim, I would like to produce the answers for all of Jerry's questions.
I can try to run that down. It may take me a little while. I know it's
yeah.
in the documents. I just have to.
We need
It's
some
been a
time.
few years since I've looked at them.
That's fine. I can
So
give
there's
you
no
the
rush on
question.
this, Jim? No rush, no overtime?
That's right. We
Yeah,
got fountains
Mr. Mayor.
to pay for.
Yes.
I just want to say I find this moment to be tremendous.
I do too, Cherry. I want you to hear this, Cherry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I want to praise you a little bit, Mr. Mayor. You've been calling for these line item disbursements for a long time, and it is something that we have been working on. Now, Cherry, I don't mean to say that. I've heard that from previous boards. We're working on it thing. But no, we are really getting it to a point. And that's one thing that popped in my head in your initial comments about the sewer. We want to be transparent, but consistently transparent. And just like we read the ARPA funds, just like we would like to read the there's things you can find in there that maybe have been discussed and even voted on in the past, but 12, 13 years ago that need to be brought to light. So thank you for this moment, Cherry. It's been.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cherry. I can't share with, even though we're transparent, I can't share what Alderman Cooper just shared. It's not fit for children's ears or many adults. Okay, so we've approved no, we haven't.
We're ready for a vote.
We're ready for a vote to approve this item. We have a motion and a second. Any audience member want to address this? No. Anybody in the audience? Oh, you'd like to? Yes, in fact, could we also post the answers to these questions on our website?
How about you make that decision after I have the answers?
Okay.
And now all the goodwill is gone.
No,
I'll tell you what, here's what we're going to do. Thank you for asking that. For those listening online, there was a question in the audience. He was asking Cherry, if he could have a copy of these results. And so what we will do is, when we get the answers, I want everybody to have the answers to these questions. And when I say I mean this board. You bet, thank you. Okay, so we've approved, have we voted on this?
We have the votes are you ready?
We're ready to vote?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Any members of the board have any questions on this?
I got comments, but I'll keep them to myself.
It's probably best. His frustration is what we're saddled with.
Yeah, what Cherry brought up. Yeah, that's crazy.
So, that's enough discussion. Let's vote to approve this item.
That motion carried 5-0.
So we're on item 5, is that correct? Yeah.
That's correct, Your Honor. Your Honor, this is the final reading of Bill Number 6143, an ordinance approving the sublease agreement with Bar O.W. LLC for the operation of a commercial boat dock and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. This item was postponed on its final reading during the April 26, 2022 regular Board of Aldermen meeting and again during the May 24, 2022 meeting. It has had a motion and a second and is ready for additional discussion and a vote.
So, Cindy, did you have something you wanted to
I think, no, Lisa just summarized my entire report, so I think, way to go.
So here's where we're at, board. to approve this lease, which is a lease that was from Lamar at Scotty's Trout Dock to Bar,
HP and Megan Wright.
yeah. The city needs to transfer the lease that was with Lamar to this new property owner. So we gave the first reading a couple months ago. Due to no fault of the board, I think they had some issues with the closing, so we agreed to extend it to this date. And so now it's back on the agenda. What we're told is they're ready to consummate the transaction, so all they're asking is for this board to vote on the final approval of this ordinance.
Yes, I think that's it.
Any questions from anybody in the audience? Any questions from members of the board?
Your Honor.
Are we going to
Sure.
make an amendment?
We do have an amendment, and Attorney Meadows might probably want to address that since he was working on that amendment.
Oh, that's great, thank you.
So we do have, and in your packets is an amended version of the lease, different than the original one we looked at. These changes to the document were requested on Monday by the attorney for the Small Business Administration and the lender for the purchaser of the Trout Dock. I can go through the changes with you in detail, but generally what they affect is they allow the lender to have a security interest in the Trout Dock if the Trout Dock for some reason doesn't work out. It does not harm the city of Branson's position. It just means if something were to go wrong and the note and the loan would be called, the bank would then be in possession of the remaining time under the lease, and they would seek a buyer for it. The provisions are fairly typical, what you would see in a commercial transaction. They're phrased a little different here because it is not real property we are leasing, but rather a dock and the right to connect that dock to our shoreline on that property. So those are really the only significant changes in it. It'll hopefully, and in all likelihood, these provisions won't come into effect. It's only if there's a foreclosure of the leased interest for failure to pay.
But in any event, it has zero effect on the city of Branson.
That is accurate.
Yeah, I read through the changes, and they are bank-related. The bank's getting more security. But as far as the city's agreement on this lease, no harm, no foul.
Correct.
Yeah. Any questions from the board?
So if I may explain just a little bit what's happening is that this exhibit is the red line version that we did get out on the website today. Unfortunately, we just got a hold of it and we put it out as fast as we could. So this is an amendment to this bill by replacing this new Exhibit 1 with the current Exhibit 1, which adds the red line version. The one thing that we cannot help, unfortunately, it's on final read. So this is it. I just want to be clear. This is it. This is final reading, and this was as transparent as we could get at the short notice.
So Lisa, when we do vote on this, we're voting on this agreement as amended? No.
It'll be, you want to vote to amend and replace the exhibit, and then you will be voting on the final reading of as amended. So there will not be another reading on this bill.
So are we having a first reading on the,
No, you're just
somebody
gonna,
tell me what I'm supposed to do.
So,
I was going to read the amendment. You want me to
yes,
read the
I just
amendment?
want to be clear that you're on the final reading, and there will be no more after these votes. This will be completed. And they have requested that because they're closing also. Thursday, so we're kind of, we're in a trying to be transparent, but in a quick time frame.
Sure.
And to be clear with the board, this is not our tenant's fault that we just got it, and it is not any of city staff's fault. The lender requested these changes at the last minute. So unfortunately, they're as much in this mess as we are, and it's just the SBA decided to require different terms right before their closing.
Yeah. Okay, so what is the procedure?
Your Honor, I move to amend Bill number 6143 by replacing Exhibit 1 sublease agreement with Exhibit 1 redlined version of sublease agreement revision date July 26, 2022. How's
You
that?
could tell he read it because those are not the words from Alderman Cooper.
We know this.
Okay. So Alderman Cooper made the motion. We need a second. We have a motion and a second.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Anybody in the audience wishing to speak to this again?
This is about the amendment.
About the amendment only. Does the board have any questions about the amendment only? Hearing none, let's vote.
Your Honor, that carried 5-0. So now we have the Bill 6143 amended. It's on its final reading. It's had a motion and a second, and it will be ready for a vote.
So we do have a motion and a second. Is there any member in the audience have any questions or comments? Any members of the board? Hearing none, let's vote.
Please ignore the motion a second on this one. I'm just going to open votes because that was previously done. That motion carried 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the next item is a discussion by Pearl Haining from the Branson U regarding public comment.
We'll begin with, slow down, Pearl, there's no running in the hallway.
Look at her.
I love you, Pearl. Well, while Pearl's making her way up, we could handle another agenda item.
Let's talk about the TIF some more.
You mean the super TIF?
Super TIF.
What do you think, Pearl?
Hey, Pearl.
Thank you, Mayor, for this opportunity. As you know, Branson U is committed to empowering our community through education, and so we appreciate the invitation to come and discuss this. Public comment is a really important part of our meetings, but when public comment devolves into an irrelevant rant, then everyone's time is wasted. And that's a real shame, and I don't want to see that happen. And so I'm hoping that my remarks tonight can help give some guidance to the general public as to what the purpose and proper use of public comment is. And hopefully we can use that to help everyone use public comment more effectively going forward. And at your request, I'll actually be addressing most of my remarks to the audience and not to you. So, because that's kind of where public comment is most relevant.
Yes, thank you.
So to the audience, let me begin, whether you're watching here tonight or watching online or you see this sometime down the road, I just want to start by emphasizing to each of you that your voice matters. And I'm so grateful that we live in a nation, in a state, and a community where a handicapped young lady has the same opportunities to speak, and her voice is valued the same way as a prominent businessman. And we really do stand on an equal playing field, and that's why we have public comment, is so that everyone has the opportunity to make their voice heard, because your voice does matter. The question is, are you making your voice count? Do you take the time to prepare your remarks in advance, or are you just shooting from the hip when you get here? Are you coming to talk about a specific problem? And if so, can you go the extra mile and offer a solution? If you use your voice correctly and effectively, then the Board of Aldermen can work with you to achieve real results. So I just want to zoom in quickly on those three things: correctly, effectively, and results. What is the correct way to use your voice in public comment? First off, address your remarks to the mayor and Board of Aldermen, not the general public, period. This isn't a rally, this isn't a speech. When you get up here for public comment, as a member of the public, your only audience is the Board of Aldermen. Secondly, don't use public comment to discuss something that's on the agenda. Lots of people arrive at a specific time to hear or address a specific agenda item, and discussing it prematurely is a disservice to everyone, including you. Don't waste your voice. Thirdly, and this is a direct quote from our city code, restrict your comments to, quote, city business that the board has authority to take action on, unquote. That's it. If you want to talk about Taney County, you came to the wrong place. If you want to talk about healthcare and vaccines, you probably came to the wrong place. If you want to talk about climate change, inflation, or 5G, you probably are in the wrong place unless you have a very specific action point for the city of Branson. There are things you may passionately believe in and want to raise awareness about. But if you don't have a specific action point for this board, then this is the wrong place and time. Again, don't waste your voice. Now, how can you use your voice effectively? Number one, try to stay aware of the microphone throughout your comments. Sorry about that. Number two, respect the time limits. Practice timing your remarks in advance if you can. And honestly, the shorter your remarks are, the more impact they will have, because that tells the board that you value their time, and they'll be more likely to value your comments. Thirdly, address the board with respect. Even when you're frustrated about something, assume that these folks are here to help you. Don't come here to lecture them. Explain how your issues affect your neighborhood or the community as a whole, and then explain what you think should be done to solve the situation. Using your voice effectively can and should make Branson a better place. Finally, what are reasonable results that you can expect after speaking? The goal of public comment is not to have discussions and make decisions. That's the purpose of agenda items. The goal of public comment is simply to make the board aware of an issue, and we can make decisions at a later time. Basically, you should always be looking for one of two results. Either a specific department or staff member will be directed to look into or take action on your suggestion or request, or the mayor and board can decide to discuss your concerns at a future meeting. It's important that that protocol is followed, because if the board is going to take action on something, then the board has to have that on the agenda in advance so that the public has the opportunity to come and make their voice heard on that issue as an agenda item. You can't make those decisions during public comment. Those are pretty much your only options. If you frame your remarks with one of those options as your goal, do you want further information about something? Just like we saw tonight, the mayor asked Jim to get more information for Cherry. That was a very productive conversation for Cherry. She came with a specific goal, and that goal was achieved. If you use these guidelines to set goals for your public comments, it will be a much more productive use of your voice. A shining example of productive public comment took place last September. An individual spoke during public comment about something that was not on the agenda. He respectfully addressed the board, explained how his concern could benefit Branson, and presented a clear goal so the mayor and board could take action by outlining an agenda item for a future meeting. He correctly and effectively made a relevant request, and our entire community benefited from the resulting revival of Ozark Mountain Christmas. When public comment is used correctly and effectively, it is a brilliant opportunity for your voice to spark positive results in our community. Your voice matters, so please make it count. Thank you again, Mr. Mayor, for this invitation, and I would be happy to answer any questions if there are any, and also to work with you guys if you want to construct some kind of guidelines that can help frame this for the public going forward.
Pearl, you are such an asset to this community.
Mr. Mayor, I want to add to that real quick. You know, and her remarks mean even more coming from Pearl, a person who's utilized public comment, a person who's passionate about a number of issues. She wears the Branson U logo on her shirt, which is to educate the public, you know. And so this is not someone who just is tired of hearing from people, you know. I mean, it's really, and so I really take what you're saying to heart, and I couldn't have said it any better. Great job, Pearl.
Thank you, Pearl. We're on item number 7.
Your Honor, the next item is a presentation on Missouri Department of Economic Development ARPA funds. And we have a PowerPoint on that. This is from the governor's presentation.
Yep. Jonas Ayers presented this slide at the governor's conference at the convention center. And I asked Jonas if he would attend this meeting. I thought the information was so valuable for our community. Jonas was unable to make it, so you're going to hear the Milton rendition, which is very limited of what's available. But I think the key points, and all of this is online. So as we go through this, anything that is of interest to you, please share it with the local businesses that you know. Share it with your neighbors. So there's new grant money coming out, and the regulations and the requirements are being formulated this month, in the month of June. When they release this money, it will be in August, next month. And it's been made very clear it is on a first-come, first-served basis. These are state funds, state or federal?
They're ARPA. They're coming.
If they're federal, they're being disseminated through the state.
Right.
So these amounts are available statewide. It's on a first-come, first-served basis. So I wanted our community to have a heads-up start researching this and get ready to fill out your application. So there it says the drafts are in July. Final, we don't have a date yet of what that final guideline will be posted. So let's see, economic impact. And there again, this is all on the web, on our city's website. But there's that's a website for additional information. Next slide. So entertainment industry is getting a grant of $5 million. $5 million is not very much. It's on a first come, first served basis. Next slide. Nonprofits. We have a lot of nonprofits in our area. And I'm trusting somebody I'm trusting all the local nonprofits are aware of this. If they're not, I'm not sure how to make them aware, but there's a lot of need. In fact, recently with Faith Community, right, CAM, they're looking for funds. Next slide. So workforce training is 30, I don't need to read this to you, you can read yourself, but the community revitalization's 100 million, local tourism development's 30 million. Wow, only 10 million for small business. So this was presented to us, and there again, I just wanted to make sure our community was aware of all this. What's next? There's only, yeah, I think that's the last slide. So I didn't want to take much time on this. I know it was presented, like I said, at the governor's conference. I just wanted to get the word out to our community that there may be an opportunity here. That is the end of my presentation. Are there any questions from members of the audience? Questions from the board?
And just to know, it's from the Missouri Department of Economic Development. It's that website, goes to that website. So not knowing the website, if you could just get to their website, you'll get into the ARPA information.
That's correct.
So
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa.
people who might be listening and not seeing the slide, I just want to make sure that's where, easy access.
So if anybody's listening and can't see the slide, if you don't mind, it is DED, dog, Edward, dog, mo.gov/ARPA. That's it. You move on to the next item? Thank you.
Your Honor, the next item is discussion of the process for recommending employees' 2023 health insurance plans.
Excuse me, Jan, but my script here says I will provide an introduction to this item. But go ahead.
Mayor, members of the board, I'm kind of circumventing the normal process of what we do. And that is, normally we get a renewal from our broker and our carrier on our medical insurance. I take it to the HR committee, we review it, we discuss where we can make cuts, tweaks, things like that. And then we come back and then we bring it to the board for a final decision on where we want to go. The thing about it is this year, we had asked for the information earlier. We've gotten that information, and we're kind of seeing a lot of the same old patterns that we used to see. Anthem is suggesting that we should probably have closer to a 28% increase, but in reality, since we had agreed on only a 9.9% increase, that we're getting a heck of a deal. Well, that heck of a deal means an increase of $350,000, which is a significant amount of money. Interesting thing is they say our claims loss is just a few percentage points above what it was last year. But last year, or for this year, I should say, on the renewal process, we came in at a -1%. This year, they're saying, well, we kind of got to make up for that and throw a little bit in since we guaranteed you the 9.9% renewal for 2023. We'll stick with that and life will be good. I'm not convinced this is the best route for us to take. That $350,000 increase is significant. We have to find that money someplace if we want to go that route. But again, the interesting thing is we're only slightly above what our claims data was for last year, what they claim it was for last year, but yet last year we saw a minus 1%. Why did we see a minus 1%? We had aggressive competition last year. We had JTS Financial out of Little Rock and Allis Acres and Arney vying for brokerage services to try to get our business. And as such, we're not seeing that same competition for this year. My recommendation is that we take a hard look at that and see what we need to do. Right now, I've got multiple brokers in the area. JTS has said that they're going to be opening an office in Branson shortly. And Allis Acres and Arney has a branch here. And Connell Insurance has a branch in the Branson area. There's part of me that would like to see a competition again to drive these costs down, to see what we can do about doing something about saving money for the city of Branson. That being said, the one thing I do want to focus on a little bit is in last year's competition, if you will, we got a minus 1% increase. Frankly, we didn't, on the rate cap, the 9.9% rate cap, our administration at the time didn't negotiate very well with respect to driving that down. I would have recommended that we drive that down even farther based on where I saw where we were going with the current increase or the decrease of what we saw last year. That being said, after the fact, JTS Financial came back and presented a 5% reduction, which the city administration at that point chose to reject. So to that end, I think there's a whole competition here that we're just missing out on. And we could be ended up paying the price for it if we don't do something fairly aggressive. And with that, that's just part of what I wanted to bring to the board for discussion purposes.
Jen, before I ask for questions, I want to really, really thank you for being proactive and taking this head on. I really appreciate. There might have been some people who didn't quite understand some of what you were going through. I've been on the HR for several years. Clearly understand what you just said. Thank you so, so much. Are there any questions from anybody in the audience from Jan's presentation? Other than, what the heck did he say? Any questions from members of the board?
Mayor, Jan, when was it that we vote? When was that? Just last fall when we voted on this? And
yes, sir.
Because I remember the presentations and all the different, and so there in that amount of time. When was that? Fall?
I think it was. It's
so
about September.
Since fall, they're wanting to raise the rates $350,000.
Yes.
And the claims rate has gone up what?
Well, it's about 6 or 7%, roughly. And that's the other part of the issue is the data that we got back from Anthem. I'm not 100% confident that they've stripped out all of our high claims. The city pays roughly, and I don't have the exact number, roughly $500,000 for what we refer to as stop-loss insurance. That any amount over $125,000 in total claims gets stripped out. Interesting fact is that, unbeknownst to us, had increased over the years. It used to be $100,000. Now suddenly it became $125,000. But anyhow, I'm not convinced. There should be about $1 million of our claims that were stripped out, and I'm not sure all of them have been stripped out.
So we're obligated with this plan through what? Through when?
The current plan that we have right now, we're paying the -1% reduction from 2021. We get that through December 31st of this year. What they're proposing is for a renewal for January 1st, 23.
Well,
for
I
this.
say we
And
go,
so, and we're in July, so what Jan's saying is if we don't do anything, that's what we're faced with. Jan's suggesting that we become more proactive and
go shopping.
go shop.
Absolutely.
Correct, Jan?
Yes, absolutely.
I am a big believer in shopping.
Absolutely.
Any aldermen have any comments, questions?
Yeah, and, I think that's, as, when we had the HR committee meeting, I mean, that was definitely something top of mind. And just to give people an idea, not every municipality has a Jan. And I think a lot of times these brokers and insurance providers are betting on complacency with municipalities and even big businesses. They're just betting it's just too much work for them to vet me even deeper, and they'll just roll with it. And I think that's what they're rolling the dice on, is that this board and our, our experts are gonna just roll with it and lay down, and we're just gonna pay that $300,000. We don't wanna, spend the time to do it, but not everybody has a Jan. And I applaud you, Jan, for looking deeper into that, and your, even your ideas about self-funding and doing all those things. I mean, those are definitely things that we have to look for in the future, because, the price of healthcare is not going down. I mean, even if you look at it, look at automobile insurance. When you're with your provider for a year, you go in that second year, all of a sudden you're getting rate increases and you're not filing any claims. That's exactly what they're doing to you. It's the game that they play. And being a healthcare provider, I've seen that, and that's why I've eliminated myself from that kind of purview of doing third-party claims, because you have business people making health decisions, and anytime you have business people making health decisions, your health is not their priority. Business is their priority. They have a responsibility to their shareholders to earn a profit. They do that by mitigating risk. They do that by increasing premiums, and they do that by decreasing their outgo of costs.
I had a quick question for you, Jan. You just want to go out and search for different insurance plans?
Ultimately, what I'd like to do is, we saw, the city saw the greatest effect when we had multiple brokers out looking for us.
That was my next question. Do we just have one broker?
Right now, yes.
Would it benefit us to look for a different broker?
At the end of the day, I would like to see just stiff competition. Throw it out there and let the winner take all.
Yeah, so Jan's not saying we want to go with a different broker. Jan's saying if we had a competitive set, we may end up with the same broker, but there's now competition to sharpen the pencil.
And expand on the negotiating powers.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are big deals, because we've got a number of our high-cost claimants, those that cost $125,000 or even just made the list, maybe closer to $100,000 that we're picking up, that have dropped off of our list through either they've passed away or they are no longer employed with the city. That becomes a very strong negotiating tool, and that's one of the things that I really want to see hammered home.
I'm sure leaning towards following Jan's lead. Lisa, do you have something?
Sure. Jan, can you explain how you would go, your steps? Are you going out to a bid, or how would you look at doing that?
Honestly, I think I would put out an RFP.
So we would put an RFP out and turn ourselves as a city?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that just for the major health insurance? Or are you looking at
I would look at the whole project.
the whole package?
It's going to mean medical, dental, life insurance, accidental death and dismemberment, all of those ancillary pieces that we have. And there's going to be other value-added pieces that the brokers themselves could add to the mix as well. There's just a myriad of things that I go back to the basic premise that competition is what's key in this whole mix.
I mean, I think for, anytime you change I mean, it's kind of a pain, I guess, for staff and everybody and stuff, but you're talking about $350,000.
Well,
We,
yeah.
you know,
In the big picture, if I'm off, please correct me, Jan, but just so you know, our operating budget is give or take $20 million a year. Our insurance that Jan's talking about, our annual premium, $3.5 million?
Yes.
$3.5 million premium. So this is a well-worthy cause to spend time on.
But, Your Honor, also, competitively, we were a negative 1% carrying our current insurance that we've had for many years. So it's competitive
They
is
should
where
be
we're at.
dropping-
So
they should be
even,
dropping it.
so it doesn't mean we will change insurance. We didn't last year. We were competitive and we came down. So, I mean, I just want to preface that because we got a better rate because we had competition against our current carrier, and they still came out with a good dollar amount, and it was a negative 1%. I asked at the question at the HR committee, what have we done wrong to go up from a -1 to almost a 10%? Well,
Yeah.
and without a cap, it would have been 28%.
Right, exactly.
So for clarity, Jan, when you're using the term a -1%, what that means is our claims have been 1% less than the previous year. No.
No, our premiums were 1% less for 2022 than they were for 2021.
Got it, okay.
And to that extent, the other thing that's kind of hidden in the weeds, if you will, is, again, going back to the broker competition side of things, we had the other broker that lost out, came back after the fact, you know, and that was a part where, and frankly, Anthem wasn't, in my opinion, above board with the dissemination of our claims data and put the other broker at a significant disadvantage. Once that data came out and they got a hold of it, they were able to better shop and do the different things. That broker came back with a -5% reduction.
Wow.
And we missed out on that.
Yeah, I won't go there. Okay, so Lisa, are you wanting an action on this or just an acknowledgement that we encourage Jan to move forward?
We do not need action. We just wanted to bring this forward to let you know, and Jan's been proactive to be ahead of this year, that he felt there was enough time yet to proceed doing an RFP basically, and we could put it out. And he wanted to be able to inform the board of that action, and so you would be transparent to know what the next
What?
steps. I know, transparent.
Had to have been there to appreciate that. Jan, thank you very
Yeah.
much. Move on forward fastly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Thanks, Jim.
yeah. Save that money.
Your Honor, the next item is the first reading of Bill Number 6183, an ordinance amending the adopted 2022 budget for the City of Branson to adjust monies in the Capital Projects Fund. The floor is open for a motion to approve the first reading of Bill Number 6183.
We have a motion and a second. We'll get a staff report. Hi, Keith.
Hi.
Cheryl, where did Keith go?
He went home not feeling well, sir.
Yeah. Is there a game on tonight? No. Poker game? Cheryl, what news do you have for us tonight?
Thank you, Mayor, Board of Aldermen, for allowing us to be here. This budget amendment is necessary to account for the expenses in the Capital Projects Fund. This will account for the expenditure and revenue and will not have an overall impact to the Capital Projects Fund reserve. This budget amendment is necessary to record the additional expense in the Capital Projects Fund for the Great River Associates Agreement that we approved for professional services for the West 76 Country Boulevard project in the not to exceed amount of $2,032,815 that was approved at the last City Council meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So before we open to questions, just real briefly, correct me if I misstep. We're asking for this $2 million capital expense, but it's not costing the city any money. And here's how. 76 CID is generating tax revenue from the businesses that are benefiting from this along 76. The city of Branson is the contractor for all the improvements being done on 76 because the city owns those assets. So the city is doing the contracting. The city is being asked to approve a $2 million contract for the architectural work, architectural design.
Engineering design.
Engineering design. To do that. So we're being asked to approve a $2 million expense. 76 CID is reimbursing the city the same $2 million figure.
I believe it's coming out of the tax, that's correct.
Out of the 76 CID tax.
Correct.
Yes. So we're moving along, we're making great improvements, but we're not spending any of our city tax dollars.
Correct.
Pretty good deal.
And we're asking for a double read tonight also, Mayor.
Okay. So are there any questions from anybody in the audience on this? Any questions from members of the board? All good? Okay, hearing none, let's vote.
I'm sorry. Already? Oh, we just got to read it.
That motion carried 5-0.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I move to read Bill number 6183 for its final reading due to timing.
So we have a motion and a second for us to approve the ability to have a second reading. Are there any questions from the audience? Questions from members of the board? Hearing none, let's vote.
That motion carried 5-0. Your Honor, this is the,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
sorry. Your Honor, this is the final reading of Bill number 6183, an ordinance amending the adopted 2022 budget for the City of Branson to adjust monies in the Capital Projects Fund. The floor is open for a motion to approve the final reading of Bill number 6183.
We have a motion and a second for the final reading. Is there any questions from anybody in the audience? Hearing none, any questions, comments from the board? So we're going to be voting on the second final reading of this bill. So let's vote.
That motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Board and Mayor.
Cheryl, you did great. We hope Keith is feeling better. We're in the section of the meeting where we have reports. I know Alderman Fenton is with his family. And I have some pretty strong feelings from the heart on that. Alderman Denham, do you have anything on the reports?
Yes, I'd just like to add, along with everyone, to express heartfelt condolences for Alderman Fenton and his family as they're going through this extremely difficult time of loss. Our thoughts and prayers are definitely with them. I just want to comment, I appreciate Pearl Hanning's presentation tonight. Very thought out ideas, and she presented everything with such clarity. She definitely stayed true to Branson U by both educating and encouraging our community. And then also I would like to say thank you to Cherry Webster for caring so much about this city and preparing such thought-out presentations with specific goals in mind. Thank you for all your research, everything that you do for this city and the citizens. It's greatly appreciated. We have a fantastic community, and we are blessed to have everyone here participating in these meetings and people watching at home online, sending ideas in, because together we need to work together for the betterment of our community. You're greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Alderman Cooper?
Same prayers and thoughts to Alderman Fenton and his family, and also to Pearl did a great job. It was unbelievable how well she spoke and executed that whole presentation. And also to Cherry as well for bringing that to light. I mean, that was quite an eye-opener. I mean, we all have our opinions on how that all happened years ago down there, but when you see that going out and nothing's coming back, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? So that's all. I don't know what to say other than that. But
how do you spell that?
I'll ask Scooby-Doo.
But, oh, and also, a while back we talked about maybe getting on the agenda or having a study session about the deposit or bonding of the entertainment. Remember we were talking about people coming in and what's the word I'm looking for?
Putting up a bond for
A
their
bond or some type of security deposit for these theaters or shows that are opening up and then leaving town owing people and stuff.
Yeah.
If it's possible, if we get a discussion on that sometime, I would love to.
Lisa, do you think that'd be more appropriate for a study session
Probably, yes.
or a board
Yes,
discussion?
I'll talk to staff and see who can get up to speed and can bring that information to us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's all.
Idea.
Thank you.
Alder Chuck.
Alder Chuck.
Alderman Howden.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for this tonight. It's a fantastic honor once again for my family. You know, we started this process last year. We did August 31st was Shoji Tabuchi Day. It's the first one we did. And you know, in this whole process, I haven't just wanted to just stand up there and read it. I've wanted to make the actual days that we do special. And I'm happy to say we've done that. For Shoji, we had an awesome press conference. It was just heartfelt. We had the fiddles out and the speeches and the whole thing. And then what we've really wanted to do, I feel, is when we can, make it a part of the actual show, if that show's still running.
That'd be great.
You know, so when Glenton Robinson, Grand Country Day, we stood up there on stage, Clay was there. We've been able to do all these. And so when it was Harold Bell Wright, Shepherd of the Hills Day, the governor came down and affirmed our proclamation. That was pretty awesome. And then the other night at the Dino Katsanakis 80th birthday party, which was a smash hit, by the way, former Attorney General John Ashcroft was there, some amazing dignitaries. He had some state senators and things. They got up and they read our proclamation. So it was pretty cool how these have gone. And then, yeah, we're going to have a big concert for my grandpa on August the 8th. Clay's going to come sing and Chuck's going to play bass. So just wanted to kind of mention that.
Not on my song.
And then if I could bring it down just one more time, because it is important, I think, to honor people who have passed from this dais. Sue mentioned this to me, the passing of Charlie Earls of Earls Family Broadcasting. They ran stations for a long time, and so I think it's important to remember them and people that have played an important role in our community for many years. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Doctor. Alder Doctor.
Okay. Condolences to Alderman Fenton and his family, and prayers to you guys. I just want to thank the community. You know, for everyone that gets up and does public comment, and for Pearl, you know, with her just explanation of what that means for us, and when directed the right way, it can really make a difference. But, you know, I got to tell you, outside of this building and just engaging people in the community, actually people engaging me, and I got to tell you, the I guess the biggest accolade that I hear is that people are really, really happy with the job that this board is doing. And I hear that every single day, whether it's in my office, at a Casey's, at the Rapid Roberts, in the grocery store. It doesn't matter where I am, because apparently people know who I am now. And so they come up to me and say, hey, I have an alderman question. I'm like, oh my gosh. But no, it's really, that's what they come to say. It's like they really are happy. And even, Ruth and I attended a meet and greet for some representatives that are running for office in the August 2nd primary. And in that venue, it was the same thing. And so that's a congruent thing that I'm seeing across the board and hearing. And I really love when people come up to me and say that, because I think we have a great team up here, and we don't always see eye to eye, but we're definitely open to each other's opinions, and we evaluate those based on our discernment, and we make decisions that are going to better this community and make this community a better place to live in. And outside of that, staff, amazing, all the things that you guys do, and having the interactions with you guys. Even last Friday I got to hang out in the planning over there and kind of talk with people, and it's just great to really see everybody coming alive and really doing amazing things. So that's all I got.
Lisa?
I, too, would like to express my condolences to the Fenton family and express it through for the staff, too. I do not know, the Cheryl is going to pitch hit for Keith for us. She's going to give an update on the White House theater process and how we're progressing, so you can have an update. And Keith is going to do it, so thank you, Cheryl, for stepping in.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Hey, Cheryl.
Thank you. A little nervous. So we've been working pretty hard on our due diligence for the White House Theater. We've spoken with Hinton, Hafer-Welker, Ken Hinton at Hafer-Welker. He will have and should have the study to us by August 8th.
Excuse me, Cheryl. For those listening that may not be aware of what we're talking about, July 1st, the city put under contract the previous White House Theater with the intention of it becoming a public safety building. And so it is under contract. We're under our due diligence period right now. So Cheryl's giving us an update on what's happening, what is currently happening through our due diligence. Thank you, Cheryl.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry about that. So Hafer-Welker is developing drawings and exhibits right now because they're looking at the building itself to see if it's a feasible place to hold a public safety building, and we'll have their report by August 8th. We've also contacted environmental services companies to do an environmental assessment on the building, and a roofing contractor has been to look at the roof, and so they'll be providing us an estimate of what that would cost if there is to be roof replacement or anything like that. So we're on schedule to deliver the report that's due for that, the assessment that Hafer-Welker is doing. And we're also getting a cost for a survey of the property. And there was something else today, Lisa, that...
We have the title commitment now.
The title commitment, that's correct. So we're collecting phase 1 assessment information on any mold or asbestos. So we've contacted a company for that also. Happy to answer any questions.
I will add to that Ben is in the audience with Baker Tilly, and another item during our due diligence was answering the question, if we pass all these physical tests, can we afford it? And Ben has assured us that the city is in a financial position that if the building meets all of our physical needs, meets our chief's needs, that the city is in a financial position to move forward, which is exciting. So it sounds like everything that we have in the works is moving forward. We're staying within our timelines, and we'll know here shortly if this is going to be a go.
Correct.
And this board, I believe, is prepared to go either way. If it's not, we're going to pass. If it is, we're going to be clicking our heels.
Okay, and we will make sure that we get all of this information to you by August 8th.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say.
You had your turn. No, you had your turn.
What a Herculean effort that the staff has made in order
Yes.
to get these things. I mean, this has been, a short, this has happened like at the speed of light.
22 days.
Almost, yeah. And they have met and exceeded every deadline, every expectation that everyone needed in order that we can make a decision that is just great for this community. So to the staff, thank you so much.
Yeah, we're excited.
Your Honor, I have one other thing just to ask of the board. We need a budget meeting, which is a joint meeting with the Finance Committee. We're looking at a date of October 6th. And it'll be from 1 to 6 p.m. So trying to look at calendars to see availability, if we can get that scheduled and blocked, if it's available or not, and we'll look somewhere else.
October 6th, which is a Thursday, at 1 p.m., you said?
Yeah, we're looking at an afternoon, 1 to 6 probably. If we can go longer, can get it done. Ben thinks we'll get it done in 1 day. If we go shorter, we'll take 2 days. I thought you'd sooner get her done.
So for clarity, we're not going to meet pick an hour between 1 and 6.
No.
You're saying you want to meet beginning at 1.
Yes,
Does that equal 5 hours?
that would be like 5 hours.
Do the aldermen get
5 hours.
OT, Ben?
The idea is to wear you guys down to where there's no questions. No,
Fat chance.
the idea is to come to you guys first on September 27th to give a presentation of what's in the budget, what's changed from 22 to 23. So you'll have that document then until October 6th, really to kind of go through it.
Excellent.
And then on October 6th, the reason we're kind of scheduling that out is because we really got the big four, right? The public safety, public works, utilities, and parks. And you're going to want to hear from those guys what those directors on what's changed from 22 to 23, which is in line with what we'd always had talked about. Just
Very
talking to the
nice.
directors instead of me. But I'll help them set up their conversation with you, and we'll hopefully knock that out in 1 day. And actually, Lisa said it'll be done in 1 day, not me.
So are there any aldermen where that date's fine with me? Any input from other aldermen?
I could, it'd probably be about 1:30 before I could make it, but.
Well, we're used to that.
Yeah, Lisa, I just have to ask off if you could just remind me as it gets closer, please. And-
Okay,
yeah.
if that.
Is it okay if I come in a little, my show ends about 12:20, I go out to the lot, 1:15-ish, is it okay if I show up a little late, or?
We can move it to 1:30 even. We're just trying to start somewhere with a date and time to see what was available. And
1:30 would be beautiful.
Okay.
I hate for y'all to all do that for me, but.
That may shorten it.
Take 2 less pictures.
So the meeting will start at 1:35.
We will get that information out and block your calendars. I just
Yeah.
wanted to bring that up. And the other thing that we have a conflict on September 13th because of Alderman going to MML. That's a board meeting date.
Yes.
Who's going to that?
We have 3 aldermen going to that, so the question on the table is, that's a Tuesday evening. Do we want to, A, reschedule that particular meeting to another day, or all of us call in sick?
Or you can make up for it on August 6th, or October 6th.
Have a double meeting?
No, that you'll be having a meeting already, so I just gave you an extra meeting. So.
Any opinions from the board?
I'm not feeling well just thinking about it.
That's too funny. Ruth, you have an opinion? Well, that's right. Those of us that will be here, are there any opinions?
What was
Well, we won't have a quorum.
Won't have a quorum.
Yeah.
like she said, just make it October 6th, another meeting. We're going to be here anyway.
P and Z.
We don't need another, I mean, we'll adjust our meeting according to what you want to do. If we cancel the September 13th meeting, we will just adjust it. We're fine.
Okay, so bottom line is, we will be canceling that schedule meeting. The question will be, what date would we reschedule?
Or do we need a reschedule?
Or do we- yeah.
We'll just move it to, we'll just continue on with our regular meetings. As long as we know, we have not booked anything on that date yet, so
Before the board decides, for clarity. So they would not get paid for that meeting.
Oh, man.
Just so you know, the board, the aldermen have many, many, many meetings. They do get compensated handsomely for each Board of Aldermen meeting. So they get paid $10 per meeting, 2 meetings a month,
Before taxes.
before taxes.
Paid out quarterly.
And the accounting department sharpened their pencil and said that no sense of them paying them monthly, so they do get a quarterly check because of the cost of postage and envelope. Okay, so let's cancel it, and
so you will see that formally as a cancellation on an agenda, since that's.
on the next agenda?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
So did we agree to 1:30 on the 6th? Is that what we're doing?
Yes, 1:30 to 6
October.
PM, October 6th. October 6th, 1:30 to 6 PM. That's a Thursday.
Okay. Is that it, Lisa? Boy, I don't know where I'm going to start, but I'm going to make this short. Jerry, thank you. Pearl, if you're listening, thank you. I'm going to tell you, I am a very, very proud mayor. Not only do I have the opportunity to be the mayor of a great city like Branson, Missouri, which is exciting, but those of you that have been involved with our meetings, when you look at the spirit of this board and the heart of this board, it is so exciting to be walking arm in arm and making a lot of positive changes for our community. Nothing at me?
No, me and Ruth were just playing.
They don't pay attention to me. I know the feeling is lighter. I'll echo what our older doctor said. I also get a lot of accolades and a lot of attaboys and a lot of thank yous for what we're doing. Pleased to be doing it. I want to encourage more and more public community input. We had Katie earlier, Shannon, what she's doing for our community. Cherry's a good example. So, because we all, hi Shannon, we're talking about you. So I appreciate the support. I can tell you every day I appreciate our directors more and more. True professionals, treat to work with. And with that, I know it may appear we're getting off early tonight, but we do have to go into executive. So I'm going to end my report, and next item is to adjourn into executive session. The floor is open for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to go into closed executive session pursuant to 610.021.1 RSMO for litigation and 610.021.2 RSMO for real estate.
So Alderman Howden made the motion. We have a second. Let's vote.
That motion carried 5-0.
Next item is to adjourn. The floor is open to adjourn the Board of Aldermen meeting. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, let's vote.
Alderman Cooper, you voting to, yeah, thank you.
Huh?
That motion carried 5-0, thank you.
Thank you very much. Motion's Meeting's adjourned.